Back in '54, when she was attending Eastern Illinois University, Elaine Transeau emceed a TV show. She did commercials, she sang, and she did interviews with the audience. At that particular time, there were no makeup artists, there were no wardrobe designers, and she had to make her own idiot cards. However, she certainly was a presence at WAMD, Channel 17 TV. When she came to Epworthville, Elaine didn't waste any time by joining our Villa choir, and she was singing was not new to her, as in the past. When she was also in school, she joined a local dance band and was singing with them. So we do want to find out more about Elaine's life, and I might add that she will be seen in this interview on Epworthville TV 1960. I might also remind you, at 2021, we do not have makeup artists, we do not have wardrobe designers, and we do have to make our own idiot cards. Now to talk with Elaine here. Elaine, tell us about your early life.
Well, I grew up on a farm in central Illinois, and I had two older brothers. I went to a one-room country schoolhouse. Went to a high school where my graduating class was only 21 students. So going to college was a real challenge.
I guess, yeah, it was kind of a shock,
Yes.
culture shock for you. Well, your educational goal was to become a speech pathologist, so talk to us about that.
Well, when I went to Eastern Illinois, speech pathology was called speech correction, and it wasn't a minor. You had to major in speech and get special certification in speech correction, which is what I did, and I minored in music. I had a wonderful 4 years at Eastern Illinois.
All right, you married Ernie Minson, and you moved to Tulsa. You also had sons. So tell us about that period in your life.
Okay. Well, the first year that we moved to Tulsa was 1955, and it was the first year of desegregation. And I was the first white teacher to walk into 2 of the black schools, which was an experience, and a very nice experience. I enjoyed it. I got along fine. And then, so, back in those days, if you were pregnant, you couldn't teach or do anything in the schools. So I was a stay-at-home mom for 13 years until my youngest child started 2nd grade, when I renewed my career.
Well, you did have quite a bit of teaching experiences in Tulsa, so tell us about those.
Well, I did work for the Tulsa County schools the 2nd year, so I was out in the country going to different schools there. And that's how I got acquainted with Union Public Schools, which was a new school district between Tulsa and Broken Arrow. Turned out to be one of the most rapidly growing school districts in the state, and I was there for 20 years. First as a speech therapist, and then when the law for the handicap came in 1977, the superintendent asked me to be the new director of special services, which was a real challenge for me, and I got very well acquainted with the school lawyer because there were a lot of things that we had to straighten out to make sure we were meeting all of the requirements of Public Law 94-142.
Okay, very interesting time, and you seemed very comfortable with teaching wherever you were assigned.
I loved being a director of special services. It's probably the most exciting career part of my life, because every day was a challenge. When I went to work each day, I was going, what's going to happen today? And you take care of one problem one day and you think, now I know how to do that the second time. No two were the same. So it was always a challenge, but I loved it.
Yeah. You and Ernie were divorced. You met Alvin Transeau, and you married in 1993 and moved to Cape Girardeau, Missouri. He was connected with Southeastern Missouri State University. Talk about your experiences there.
Okay. Well, we lived in Cape Girardeau for 6 years, and during that time, I got a job in southern Illinois because we're on the Mississippi River, and I had a job with a 4-county co-op in the southern part of Illinois, where I was a traveling speech pathologist. Got to be a speech pathologist now, and that was fun. But probably the most exciting thing of our 6 years there was the last semester that my husband taught at SEMO, as they called it. He was one of Missouri professors allowed to go to London for a semester with Missouri college students, and we lived in a flat in London for 4 months, and I learned how to live as a Londoner, and that was really an exciting 4 months in both of our lives. We loved that.
Did you find that very different from
Oh, yes.
living here?
We walked everywhere. We didn't have a car ride the whole 4 months. It was just you walk wherever you go. And but it was really fun. We were only 3 blocks from Kensington Palace, so it was after Diana's death. But there was still that kind of aura, I guess, about Kensington Palace when you run around. But anyhow, it was fascinating to live as a Londoner, and I learned to wear dark colors, because they wear dark colors all the time. But it was fun.
Well, you and Alvin first retired to Arizona. So why did you choose Arizona?
Well, basically, I would say Alvin chose Arizona because he was a golfer. He hated humidity, and he was tired of humidity in southeast Missouri, and he was wanting to be in a place where he could breathe easily and play golf nearly every day. That had a lot to do with it. And we had a list, but we looked at what we wanted to do. I was looking for utopia, and there's no such thing as utopia. But it met most of our requirements, and we moved there, and we enjoyed it.
Well, you did some volunteer work there
Oh,
as
yes,
well.
yes. The first year I volunteered in a local school district, but I found out that I was wanting to correct a lot of things, and I decided I didn't belong in the school district because I was just a volunteer, and I could see many things that I thought could be improved. So, but I volunteered at the local hospital as a kind of like I would go around and talk to patients, because the philosophy of Del Webb Hospital was no patient left unhappy. And so I was to go around and talk to all the patients and say, oh, how's your day going? Everything going fine? And if it wasn't, I reported that, and they took care of it. So it was interesting. I also volunteered with the local hospice group, and I think they call it a grievance phoner. I would call for people and see how they were doing. So
Talking to family, you call
the families after someone had passed away.
Yeah. Well, and volunteers sometimes, referring to the patients in the hospital, we'll talk to volunteers before they'll talk to the medical
that was the
staff.
idea.
So, yeah, it's kind of, don't like to call them spies, but that does probably cover a lot of territory. At one time in 2012, you did consider moving to Edwardsville.
Yes.
Because you have children and grandchildren.
Yes. My husband and I came and looked at Epworth and actually put money down on one of the cottages. I remember the number. But we got back to Arizona, and my husband said, I'm sorry, I can't do it because the humidity. And so we discussed it for a few days, but I gave in and we stayed there. And it was good. We had good years there.
But after Ellen did pass away, you decided to move back to Oklahoma, and you moved into Epworthville on October 16, 2020.
Yes.
We were still in the pandemic.
I know. And I was coming from a life care facility where my husband had been, and I was used to the pandemic, but I knew that I wanted to be back here. I think the pandemic made me realize even more than usual how important family is. And I wanted to be close to my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren.
Well, what are you finding you like about Oklahoma and Epworthville?
Well, you know, I've lived in Oklahoma before as straight out of college. I loved Oklahoma. People are open and warm and genuine, I think. And that's the feeling I had about the culture of Oklahoma. And I wanted to be back in that kind of an environment. And I immediately felt it in spite of the pandemic. Even though we had masks on and we just saw each other in hallways, I felt a warmth and an openness and a friendliness. I felt at home immediately at Epworth.
Yes. You were homecoming queen in college, and you were also selected Outstanding Director of Special Services in Oklahoma. You have said your passion has always been family and music. So how about your life's satisfaction quotient?
Well, I'm very happy right here. I love singing in the choir. Ginger is such a fun person to sing with. And I've always been in a choral group, and I feel like that's part of who I am. I don't have the voice I once had, that's for sure, but it's nice to be amongst a group that loves to sing. And our family is close, and I'm thoroughly enjoying being near my family.
Well, I think, a lot of us certainly feel that way, even though we might have to wear a mask
Yes.
when we go to see them.
Yes.
You did mention to me one thing that is on your bucket list. What is that?
Yes. I've always wanted to do the Mississippi River Cruise. When we lived in Cape Girardeau, those boats used to dock there, and I would go down and I would see them, and it always looked so romantic or something. And I understand those paddle wheels probably aren't functioning anymore, but they look like they might be. But I've always thought it would be fun to do that someday, and it's still in the back of my mind, someday I may try to do that.
Well, we have some residents that just returned recently from that kind of a river trip, so perhaps I can get you in touch with them. There's still time.
I know. I haven't given up yet.
Elaine, you have joined our interview team here at Epworthville, and it seemed only appropriate that we interview you as well. So thank you so much, and I have loved hearing your story.